The latest figures show the economy barely moving in the last 3 months of 2015, with economic growth coming at just 0.7% in the fourth quarter. Even though unemployment has fallen, millions of Americans have simply given up looking for work, and those who are working face another problem. Their income hasn't been going up much in recent years either. So what's the solution to slow economic growth? Is it more government spending or programs or something else? Some economists point to another answer. They say the taxes on American businesses are just too high. The federal corporate tax rate is 35%, one of the highest in the world. Even European countries have lower tax rates. Some critics say U.S. businesses have write-offs, but critics point to businesses like Burger King and others that have moved their headquarters to other countries to pay lower taxes. Some of the Republican candidates have plans to cut the business tax rate, and even President Obama has talked about cutting it. But so far, nothing has happened in Washington, and nothing will unless the next president, whoever that is, supports it. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Steve. Well, with us is Stephen Moore. He's an economist with the Heritage Foundation and Freedom Works. It's a pleasure always to have him with us. What do you think of the election?
I am so happy. I'm happy because you know what we found out last night, Pat?
What's that? She
is not going to be president of the United States. She is not going to be president. And there's just no way. I mean, she's only getting, 40% of the Democrat vote.
Yeah.
I have a lot of liberal Democratic friends who are very nervous today because they realize they've got a losing ticket. On the Republican side, I think it's, Trump is an amazing political phenomenon, isn't he? I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Never.
I mean, if we had been sitting here a year ago, and I had told you that Donald Trump, was in first place and could be the Republican nominee, you would have thought I was drinking.
Absolutely.
I have to say this, and I don't have a horse in this race, but I thought his speech last night was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It was patriotic. It was pro-business. It was pro-America. The more I see him, the more he comes across as sort of the anti-Obama, right? Yeah. He's a man of accomplishment, a businessman who has hired people. He exudes patriotism. He loves America. Obama's always blaming things on America. Yeah. I think, that's very attractive to voters. But it ain't over. It ain't over.
All those young people, and here this old man, this old socialist, saying all these things, and these kids, I don't know if you listened to his speech, but they kept cheering over and over again.
He got 80% of the voters under the age of 29.
Amazing.
Bernie Sanders did.
Well, I mean,
and that's an amazing thing.
Is that like the kids that want to do a panty raid in a fraternity? I mean, is it kind of...
Well, first of all, it's an indictment of our education system in America. When these college graduates think that socialism is an economic model that works, I mean, show me anywhere in the world, Bernie Sanders, where socialism hasn't worked. I mean, look at Greece, for goodness sakes, it's bankrupt.
Well,
look at Argentina. Look at France. Look at Detroit. I mean, look at Puerto Rico. All of the socialist states are going bankrupt.
He wants a 90% top tax, and he kept inveighing against the billionaire class. How many billionaires have we got? The whole thing is absurd.
Even if you took every penny from every billionaire in the United States, 100% tax rate, you couldn't run the government for 3 or 4 months. That means that if you want the big spending programs that Obama came out with yesterday, or Hillary Clinton has endorsed, or Bernie Sanders, where the money has to come from? It has to come from the middle class. They are going to raise taxes on the middle class if they win, but they're not.
Well, the middle class has really been hurt by their. All right, what is your solution? What would you do to solve this thing? Because there is a malaise that's settled upon us.
That's a good way to describe what's going on in the economy, a malaise. So the irony of Obama's presidency is, this has been a recovery, but it is. Sanders is right about this. All of the gains under Obama have gone to the top 10%. Most of the people in the bottom 90% haven't seen a pay raise. Anybody who thinks that the unemployment rate is 5%, that's one of the biggest lies statistics. The real unemployment rate in this country is 10%, Pat, because we're not counting people who've just become so discouraged, they've just dropped out. So there are real problems. The middle class has actually lost income during the Obama presidency. I've been studying this stuff for 30 years. This is the first time I've seen an economic recovery from recession when the middle class actually lost ground. And that's why voters are so cranky. they're angry, and they're anxiety-ridden.
What do they do? I mean, a middle-class guy, he's losing ground. What does he do to make ends meet?
It's tough. I mean, that's why when Barack Obama last week, did his, Super Bowl shuffle in the end zone on the economy, people are saying, what country is he talking about? People, when they pay their bills at the kitchen table, you see the rising cost of tuition, rising cost of health care. They're just having a hard time. Now, when you ask, what do we do, Pat, about this economy? Why not help businesses? I mean, since when did we create villains out of businessmen and women who create the jobs in this country? We need to honor businessmen and women who create the jobs, who sign the paychecks. We haven't done that in a long time in this country.
Well, you figure you've got the federal tax. We talk 35%.
Yeah.
But that's just federal.
Closer to 40, actually.
Yeah, well,
you mean the business tax?
Yeah, the business, and they have to pay state taxes.
Yeah.
And if you go out in California, it's just draconian. And then there are other fees on top of that. So at what disadvantage are we?
Huge.
Yeah.
You just had that little segment about all these companies that are leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, Burger King, one of our greatest drug companies, Pfizer, has left. We have countries like Medtronic. Walgreens has talked about leaving. Shouldn't the alarm bells be going off in Washington? There's something wrong here when our companies are leaving for Canada, they're leaving for Ireland, they're leaving for China. Trump is right about this. We got to bring those companies back to America. And the way you do that, and I testified last week before the House Ways and Means Committee, said, cut the tax rate. Reagan proved when you cut the tax rates, businesses come back, you create more jobs. That's the best way to have revenues.
Some of these demagogues are saying, well, look, we just need to punish these people. They're just tax scofflaws, and they're, taking advantage of this great country. That's not true at all.
No, my father, who is 93 years old, a World War II veteran, still alive and kicking, he puts, for 40 years, he put the sweat equity into his small business and built it up, and he became a millionaire because he put so much of his stuff. He used to be gone a lot. My point is, we should honor those people who built the businesses. Sure. I love that about Donald Trump. I love that about whether it's Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, the people to treat them as if somehow they are stealing from our country when they're the people who create the hundreds of thousands of millions of jobs.
The president has done that. He's a class divider in chief. We have never had a president who set one class against another the way this man has.
And his budget, which didn't get a lot of publicity, it came out yesterday, his last budget, thank God. His last budget has trillions of dollars of new taxes. By the way, don't you love, when I'm here in Virginia Beach, when we drove here from the airport, $1.55 a gallon for gasoline. That's a wonderful thing, right? Yeah. Obama wants to put a $10 a gallon, $10 a barrel charge on this. That's going to raise the gasoline price by another 25 or 30 cents a gallon. I mean, my goodness, Mr. President, give the middle class a break here. I mean, how is that going to help the middle class to tax the oil?
Slush fund for all of these
green energy programs.
Green energy that Solyndra and others that haven't worked.
When you talk about how we can rebuild this economy, I'll tell you one way we can do this. We have more oil and gas and coal than any other country in the world. Yes. We ought to be developing those resources. Those are good paying jobs. Those are jobs that pay $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. This president, he wants to kill the coal industry. I mean, we're here in Virginia. This is a coal state. There are whole towns that have been decimated by this man. So we ought to, but we could do this, Pat. Write this down. In 5 years, if we get a pro-America, pro-energy president, we could be energy independent for the first time in 50 years. That is to say, we could be producing more energy than we're buying. That means we don't have to buy the oil from the Middle East. That's going to keep us safer. I mean, why in the world wouldn't we want to do that?
Well, because of progressive ideology.
But the people who are being hurt by that ideology are the middle class, because those are the jobs that are being destroyed.
Thank you
but I'm optimistic. I don't want to end this on a pessimistic note. I think we get a pro-America, pro-business president, we're going to see a boom in this country in 2017. I really believe that.
It's been restrained for so long.
It's time to explode.
Amen. Stephen Moore, thank you so much.
Great to be with you again.
Pleasure.